This is the Authority Company podcast, conversations with leaders who are building the future. Hola, I'm Joe Pardavila, and Todd Mezrah is beaming in today from Tampa. Todd is an entrepreneur, executive strategist, and author of the new book, Follow-Up Freak. Todd has built his career around a simple idea that most people ignore. The fortune really is in the follow-up. In his new book, he breaks down the system that helped close billion-dollar deals and build lasting client relationships. We're going to get into Todd's FUF philosophy, why most people quit too early, and how better follow-up can completely change your career, your business, and the way people remember you. Todd Mezrah, welcome to the show. How are you, my friend?
Strong, man. Very strong. Good to be here. Good to see you again. It's been a while.
Good to see you. I spoke to you during your last promotion of your last book, and I was super excited to see this. First of all, the title of your book, The Follow-Up Freak, because to me, this has always been one of my superpowers. And to share a story, Todd, many, many years ago when I started in radio, my boss, my mentor, his name is Scott Shannon. I think he originally worked in the Tampa area for a long time.
Okay.
He came up to me one time, he goes, and my name, my honor name was Monk. So he goes, and he has like a weird Southern accent. He goes, Monk, you know what I like about you? I like that you're a one-tell guy. And I'm like, I don't know what do you one-tell guy? And he goes, I have to tell you something once and you do it. And this idea of you writing a book that for many people may say, oh, isn't this common sense? Well, common sense isn't always common practice. So tell me about the idea of being the follow-up freak. Where did this all come from? Has this been part of your being and that's what's made you a successful person?
Yeah, I mean, it's been part of my DNA since I was probably a kid, and it was ingrained into me by my parents. And it was actually part of my book, my first book, The Business Athlete, and I had allocated some real estate to being a follow-up freak. I call fuffing, could be a verb, a noun, whatever adjective, whatever you want to think of it. And uh, I started to get a little bit too long in the tooth, if you will, in this part of the book. And I realized, holy smokes, I could probably turn this into a separate book. Why don't I pause, kind of pare that down, and then go back and revisit it? And that's exactly what I did. I revisited it and turned it into its own book. I think it's deserving of its own place, um, to highlight the fact that follow-up is critical. Without that, I don't think anyone can really be successful.
Yeah, I love that fuffing thing. And it's funny because I think as much as it's basic professionalism and you talk about that basic professionalism, what happened to the follow-up? What happened to people like not doing what they say they were going to do? Is it laziness? Is it people are too busy? Is it just because people don't have it ingrained in their DNA like you and I? Where do you think most of that comes from?
I mean, candidly, it starts with your parents. I mean, it starts with your environment and where you grow up and what you think is acceptable and not acceptable. And I grew up in a household where not returning a phone call, not doing what you say you're going to do, um, not following up was disgraceful. I mean, it was not going to happen in our house. So, I just learned it from my parents and I thought it was normal. And it turned out that being a fuff is not normal. I mean, most people do not follow up. And if they follow up, it may be days or weeks later. That's not acceptable. So I think it starts at home. And it starts with surrounding yourself with people that also appreciate respect. So following up is being respectful. There's lots of people that I call and message on a daily basis, and I may not hear from them for a while. I understand they're busy, so you got to give some consideration there. But at the end of the day, it does become disrespectful, and that just doesn't work for me, and it shouldn't work for anyone.
It's funny that you say that because I have this pet peeve of mine that where if you were to walk up to someone on the street and say hello and the other person ignores you, it's considered rude. But it's perfectly acceptable for you to send an email to someone and they could ignore it and it's totally acceptable. Like obviously the whole thing, oh, it got lost in the spam. I lost track of my emails. All the excuses pile up. But how about that? Just the basic, just just the basic courtesy of responding to an email. I mean, I know we can't. You and I, Todd, will not be able to change that. But man, that's one of the most frustrating things to me when it comes to business and people having sort of a collective respect for each other.
Yeah, no one's that busy, and use your resources. I mean, I outlined it in my book. There's all kinds of resources. Maybe you're not good at follow up. Maybe you're not good at, there's different ranges of follow up. There's short term, midterm, and long term range follow up. Short term would be within 24 hours, which is what I kind of pride myself on. But if you're not good at mid or long range follow up, give it to your EA, give it to some other person who's on your team and have them follow up or have them respond to the email that says, Todd wanted me to let you know that he got your email and he'd be calling you next week to discuss something that's communicative, that shows that they have your attention, that you respect them. That's going to be memorable all within itself because no one really does that, and they really should.
And earlier in the book, you say that failing to follow up sends the message that you are not important to me. Why do you think so many professionals underestimate the emotional side of the responsiveness? I'm not even talking about like the professionalism. This is just like the emotional side. Why do people underestimate that?
I think not enough people like me are giving people shit about not following up. So if there's no consequences for not following up, they're going to think that it's fine. They're going to get complacent. And they're going to think that it's cool. At the end of the day, the person is probably boiling inside and wants to tell them, what the hell? Like, I've emailed you 3 times, I've called you twice, no response. Are you alive? Are you dead? Like, what's happening? And because there's no consequences, and that consequence could be easy as a respectful pull aside at a charity event that says, "Hey, I just want to let you know, I know you're busy. Everyone's busy, but I've reached out to you 4 times, no response. Not cool." That's all I tell them. Not cool. And they're like, "Yeah, I really apologize." You can apologize. That's great, but you've got to do better at that. And now I can now say to them, "Let me send you my book." So if you get a book from me, probably not a good sign.
It's
Probably
it's
not.
it's passive aggressive book marketing. I love that.
Exactly, exactly. Battleground book, it's a great way to put it. So, and I've already sent books out to several people, and they appreciated it. They're like, you know what, you're right. I am bad at it. And I said, well, if you're bad at it, then find a way to improve. Read the book because you're just not. This is not well played. And by the way, it's hurting your reputation because I've heard this from other people, just not me. And I like you as a person. But at the end of the day, if I'm hearing it for 2 or 3 or 4 other people that your follow up is not good, that doesn't sit well, should not sit well with you. You don't want people to think that, you're not responsive, that you're not respectful, and that's reputational risk that you need to address.
Yeah, and I think the one issue you might have with this movement, Todd, is the fact that it's the old C to B, like you see to become something, and people see that hyper successful people are terrible at follow up. Like you have no idea, Todd, how many times I'll do a podcast or I'll do a meet and greet with
Yep.
someone and be like, "Oh yeah, this CEO who's worth tens of millions of dollars." Never returns a text to his friends, or they never respond to emails from people. I mean, I think we all know that a lot of this is from the top down,
Yep.
because obviously the bottom up the top would not allow, right? If an underling or
Of
a
course.
junior staffer didn't get back to him. How do we tackle this from the top, Todd?
You have to lead by example. And I have a 4-hour rule. And it's a rule that I apply to myself as well as everyone else in my companies. And it is, if someone responds to you, whether it's a call, text, email, max, your max outlier time is 4 hours, preferably immediately. The immediate response is going to be more memorable because they're going to go, wow, no one ever responds to me that quickly.
Yeah.
And by the way, that gives you credibility. It shows that you're being respectful. And you're probably going to get that meeting. You're probably going to get that opportunity. And that might be that little edge that you might have over and above whoever else that they're talking to. So I try and instill that kind of thinking in people when I talk to them about how important follow up is.
That's great. That's great. I love it. I love it. And Todd, there's a part of your book where I call the Todd Mezrah Odyssey, where you play the part of Homer, and you talk about this epic tale of spending 23 years pursuing one client. Very much like your Odyssey here. Most people would have quit after 6 months. What kept you going mentally through that process of 23
Yeah,
years?
I just literally just messaged that person because I saw him at a charity event, just messaged them. It's just all about not wanting to give up. So I talk about NGU, which is synonymous with midi-chlorians if you're a Jedi. If you're a business athlete and you have high levels of NGU in your bloodstream, you're just not going to give up. You're going to want to win. And you can ask them, am I wasting my time? Just showing me to follow up. And if they're not cutting you loose, sure, how much time does it really take to follow up with someone? It doesn't take that much time. Even to be professionally persistent, it doesn't take that much time. It has to be thoughtful and scheduled and just part of your natural cadence. And that's what creates wins. But no, I'm not going to give up. I mean, if he flat out says, no, I'm not interested. Okay.
Yeah.
I get it. But the effort that it takes to follow up for what I call deferred compensation, which is all the time that I put in, which will ultimately transform itself into some form of compensation, I'm willing to continue to invest in that endeavor.
That's
So,
cool. That's excellent. And so, part of that I want to tie into this idea of a fine line between persistence and annoyance. Obviously, 23 years, some people might be like, that's pretty annoying. How do you know when a follow-up becomes too much?
that's a good question. I guess it's around the you don't want to follow up. You don't want your follow-up to be stacked on top of each other. It needs to be strategic and it needs to be somewhat drawn out so that you're not being annoying. So sure, you're going to call someone or email them every week. No, the best thing to do so that you're not annoying is you ask them, when would you like me to follow up next? What's good timing for you, given that you've got a board meeting and you're going to be releasing earnings? What is a good time from your perspective for me to reach back out to you? Let them coach you on what that timing should be. Then it won't be annoying because you're just following their actual guidance. So that's the safest thing to do.
It's good. And so it's funny, it reminds me because I obviously working in the world of podcasting, consulting clients, booking guests, all that jazz. Todd, I often have to send multiple emails to follow up with people. And
Yeah.
I got so tired of writing, hey, just checking back in on this. I went to ChatGPT, Todd, and I said, give me the 10 best follow-up lines I can use when it comes to an email. And I copied those into
Yeah.
like my notes app, and now every time I need to follow up someone, I'll just copy one of those lines and put it in
Nice.
there just so it doesn't seem repetitive because as you know, Todd, there's only so many ways to say just following up. There's a
Yeah.
finite way of doing that. Do you have any go-tos in that regard?
So I do. So I track and monitor relationships pretty closely, whether it's through a Google alert or just being, present and understanding a particular company and kind of tracking, following all their milestones. So whenever anything happens related to a company, whether it's a new hire, whether it's an acquisition, maybe it's a win in terms of earnings, maybe they exceeded expectations from a market perspective, I always send them a note, and that note doesn't have to be an email or text. It could be a note card. So note cards are just another form of follow-up. It's old school, but believe it or not, works really, really well. So being relevant and making sure that relevance is very timely, they're going to know that you're paying attention and that you actually care about what's going on, not only within their company, but within their own lives.
That's great. And there's very few people that have the persistence and fortitude to wait 23 years on a client. But it reminds me of that line from Sex and the City. He's just not that into you. Where essentially the joke was that I think it was Miranda was trying to figure out why her boyfriend's not getting back to her, and then a guy said he's just not that into you because if a guy
Yeah,
was really into you, he would be he'd respond to your text, he'd call you out, blah blah blah.
sure.
When does that play a part? Where you realize that during this course of follow-up and being incredibly intentional with your follow-ups, whether it's, you're not again, they're not being in a nuisance state
Sure.
like we talked about. When do you pull the plug and be like, "He's just not that into me?"
Yeah, so I may pull the plug on myself. So I may not be the one that's following up. Maybe they don't have the gumption to just say, look, I don't really like you. I don't like the fact that you're 5'6". I don't like the fact that you live in Florida. I don't like anything about you. But maybe there's someone else on your team that might connect better with them. So why don't you refer that opportunity to someone else who might have better success getting a meeting with them or sharing a solution to a particular problem? So that's also a strategy that I've deployed, and it's worked pretty effectively. So I like that.
That's a good tip. We talk about FUF. I want to talk about FUF awareness, where you start noticing how often people fail to follow through. Did becoming hyper aware of that make you more disappointed in business culture overall because the fact that you were so tuned in to the idea of the follow up?
When I was younger, yes, I was traumatized that I wasn't getting the callbacks and the receptivity. Now, in my seasoned business career, I don't have expectations anymore. So the lower your expectations, the more patience you have, and not that you just acquiesce to, well, that's just the way people are. Sure, you could take that approach. The reality is, you know, patience is really key in lowering your expectations because people are just going to be people. And a lot of it is about timing. A lot of people don't mean to be rude or disrespectful, they indirectly are. And you can professionally and softly call them out on that, but you can't take it personally. You just can't. If you take it personally, you're gonna devastate yourself emotionally, and you're probably gonna find yourself without a job. So, lower your expectations. That's the best approach to, being, an elite FUF, or I should say master FUF.
Good. You repeatedly use the phrase service without space. What does
Yes.
that actually look like day to day inside your company culture?
So we actually have FUF training, here in my companies, believe it or not, and part of the FUF training is about service without space. And service without space is best defined as very little separation between you and the client. So, translated into English, that really means anticipating what a client is going to need or is going to ask. So, that's one form of it. The other form is delivering immediately. So, if they ask you a question, you respond immediately. So, not much space has been created between you and the client. And so that's service without space. There's always going to be some degree of space, but minimizing that of space is really key because that could translate into credibility, translate into you being different, you being memorable, which will ultimately create another win for you.
Nice. And there's been a lot of think pieces and books written about burnout, especially since 2020,
Oh,
Todd.
yeah.
Um, let's talk about this. Let's devil's advocate because people may be like, I'm burnt out. I can't possibly, respond to this one email I've gotten today. So how do you maintain responsiveness without letting work consume your entire life?
Look, if you're not having fun in whatever you're doing, you should just stop doing it. So if you're in an environment or a business or in a profession where you're not really enjoying it, following up is just going to be painful and grueling. So my advice would be find something you have passion for, do something that you enjoy doing that's a lot of fun. When it's fun, it turns into more of a game, right? Not that you want to, you know, put points, some kind of a scoreboard together. You certainly could. That's a good idea. Um, but yeah, it's a game at the end of the day. I mean, if you're looking for wins, and a win would be touching, I call it a, touch, whether it's they respond back, whether it's they call you back, whether it's they set up a meeting, whether you connect with their assistant to get you to that next step in that relationship. Those are all touches and turn it into a game, lower your expectations and have fun with it. If it's like I said, if it's not fun, you need to disengage and find something that is going to be a lot more fun.
That's good. And, earlier we mentioned timing, and you believe timing matters almost as much as the message itself. What have you learned about reading the emotional timing of a client or relationship? What have you learned from that? The idea of getting back to someone quickly, regardless of whether it's a negative or a positive. How important is that timing piece?
So timing is important when coupled with strategy. So you have to strategically follow up. And the best way to strategically follow up is to really understand the person on the other end who's going to be receiving the message, understand their world, what they're going through. Maybe they're traveling, maybe they're on a road show, maybe they're taking their kids up to a camp for the summer. Understand a good time and a bad time to follow up. How do you figure that out? You have to learn. You have to do some research and diligence on the company, on the person themselves, establish a relationship maybe with their EA, find out, ask them for some coaching. What's the best time for them to follow up, or for me to follow up, I should say. And they're usually going to divulge more information they probably should. Oh, he's jumping on a plane and has meetings in New York, or he's actually getting ready to go on a snow skiing trip out in Colorado. And so the best time to get him is when he's on his way to the airport. Like, you can find this information out, right when to hit him at the right time, which might prompt a response back. So that's really the whole key to that.
Oh, that's good. I was curious in terms of the idea of when you follow up and the time of day, because it was weird. This past weekend, I try to be active checking my emails if it's an emergency. So if an email over the weekend comes in, it's an emergency, I'll respond. If it's not, I'll wait till Monday. But this past weekend, I got like 5 or 6 emails from people responding to stuff I had sent weeks later on
Sure.
Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, they're trying to impress you. Then you probably remember all those 5 people, I bet.
I do, but I also wonder what's going on in their life, Todd, that they gotta respond on the weekend. Like, is that let's get into the
Yeah,
time management side of all this.
it's just they have the time. So they're freed up, they wanna be respectful, and they know that come Monday morning, they're gonna be jammed nonstop, and they're probably gonna forget to probably respond and follow up, and, congrats, you must be important to them. So, there you have it.
But what do you say to people who like, I know people that I know we're sharing a lot of each other's pet peeves. One of mine is when someone's away on vacation, and on that Monday back, they'll be like, "Hey, what are you working on today?" Like, "Oh, I'm catching up on all my emails." And like this whole idea of not looking at your emails the entire time of vacation, I to me, that's not my part of my being. I'm sure that's like yours, but how does that work in an organization where I I mean, not that you want people to be looking at their emails, like, actively when they're away or on vacation, but how can you impress upon them that it's not the best idea to walk in, from, like, a 5-day vacation to 500 emails and then spending literally an entire day going through emails and not being productive at
Yeah,
all?
no.
What
Yeah,
do you
I mean, I think most C-level executives and professionals aren't really gonna totally check out, so they have to stay in touch. If they have a lot of responsibility, they're managing a large organization, I think they know it's their responsibility to kinda keep their finger on the pulse, and they will respond as needed. They will direct more of those emails to other people that can get things done. So that's kind of the whole referring the
Yeah,
follow-up to another resource so that, it still makes you look good and you're still being responsive and kind of proactive. But no, I don't get these people that can just check out for vacation and then they come back, they have all these emails. It's like, I get the automated response, I'm out of the
yeah.
office, contact so and so, but there's probably 20-30% of those emails that are super important. They might be time sensitive. They might be the only go-to person. You got to be omnipresent. You got to be always on your game. If you're a business athlete, you can't just, clock out. That's like not a thing.
Alright, so you're clearly obsessed with details. Has this mindset ever become a weakness or created friction with people around you? This could either be professional or personally, because knowing you, Todd, knowing you over the years, Todd, I know that 9 to 5 and then 5 to like the next morning, you're the same person. Does that rub people the wrong way sometimes?
I mean, of course. I mean, I drive people nuts. I mean, that's no secret. Yeah, and my expectations are pretty high, and that's why I have FUF training. I want to train people on how to follow up, how to think like a FUF master, and then understand what the benefits are of being a FUF master and how that might waterfall over to the client relationship. And so it's all about education and training. But yeah, I drive everyone nuts. I mean, that's just what I do. If you don't like that environment and you don't think that fupping is important, this is probably not a great place for you to work.
No, it's good. It's honest. And lastly, Todd, uh, obviously, the first thing if they want to be a FUF master, they read the book. They could probably learn more about you online. But what's the first step someone can take to being a follow up freak? Just a super simple hack that you could share with folks that can
Sure.
lead them to a road of becoming FUF masters?
So there's really 3 levels you have to achieve to become a FUF master. The
Okay.
first level is execute on just doing. So basically do what you're told. So do what you say you're gonna do, return all calls, emails, and messages timely. That's where you start. And then once you've mastered that and you've perfected all your ranges, short term, mid range, and long range, then you can get to level 2, which is more about thinking. And that's really thinking about what is the reputational impact to me if I don't follow it, because people are going to be more apt to remember something that didn't happen versus something that happened. That's not good. So focus on being respectful. And then lastly is level 3, which is waterfall all that over to innovation and creativity in your follow-ups. That's the anticipatory edge. So being omnipresent, being professionally persistent, being, memorable. Once you've achieved all those 3 levels, boom, you've now become the FUP master.
Love it. You can read all about it in Follow a Freak: How High Performers Build Trust, Create Opportunity, Win More Business. His name is Todd Mezrah. Todd, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
And that's going to do it for this episode. If you want to find out more information about Todd and our other amazing authors, go to theauthoritycompany.com.